Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha, Jaya Giribharadhare, Jaya Giribharadhare. Jaya Jashodanandana, Jaya Braja Janaranjana, Jaya Braja Janaranjana. Jashodanandana, Jaya Braja Janaranjana, Jaya Braja Janaranjana. Jamuna Tiravanachare Jaya Kunja Bihare. Jamuna Tiravanachare Jaya Kunja Bihare. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihare. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihare. Jaya Kunja Bihare. Jaya Kunja Bihari. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 14, text number 26, entitled Ideal Family Life. Samskara kalo jayaya apatyasyatmanas tata preta samstamritahascha karmanya bhyudaye nripa. Samskara kalo jayaya apatyasyaasmanasthatha preta samsthamitahascha karmanyabhyudaye nripa samskara kaloja jaya apatyasyaasmanasthatha preta samsthamitahascha karmanyabhyudante nripa. Please chant. Preta samstamritahascha karmanyabhyudaye nripa. Ladies. Samskara kalojayaya apatasyasmana tatha preta samstasmritahascha apatasyasmanastata preta samstamritahascha karmanyabhyudate nripa. Samskara kala, at the proper time indicated for Vedic reformatory performances. Jaya Yaha, for the wife. Apatyasya, for the children. Atmanaha, and one's own self. Tatha, as well as. Preta samstha, funeral ceremonies. Mrita aha, annual death ceremonies. Cha, and karmani, of fruitive activities. Abhyudaye, for the furtherance. Nripa, O king. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O King Yudhisthira, at the time prescribed for reformatory ritualistic ceremonies for one's self, one's wife, or one's children, or during funeral ceremonies and annual death ceremonies, one must perform the auspicious ceremonies mentioned above in order to flourish in fruitive activities. Purport. The Vedas recommend many ritualistic ceremonies to be performed with one's wife, on the birthdays of one's children, or during funeral ceremonies. And there are also personal reformatory methods like initiation. These must be observed according to time and circumstances and the directions of the Shastras. Bhagavad Gita strongly recommends Gyatva Shastra Vidhanoktam. Everything must be performed as indicated in the Shastras. For Kali Yuga, the Shastras enjoin that Sankirtan Yajna be performed always. Kirtaniya Sadahari. All ritualistic ceremonies recommended in the Shastras must be preceded and followed by Sankirtan. This is the recommendation of Srila Jiva Goswami. Text 27 to 28. Atadesham pravakshyami dharmadi shreya avaham sabai punya tamo desha satpatram jatra labhyate bimbam bhagavato jatra sharvan etach characharam jatraha brahmana kulam tapo vidyadajambitam. Translation. Narada Muni continued, now I shall describe the places where religious performances may be well executed. Any place where a Vaishnava is available is an excellent place for all auspicious activities. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the support of the entire cosmic manifestation, with all its moving and not moving living entities, and the temple where the deity of the Lord is installed is a most sacred place. Furthermore, places where learned Brahmanas observe Vedic principles by means of austerity, education, and mercy are also most auspicious and sacred. Purport. In this verse, it is indicated that a Vaishnava temple where the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is worshipped and where Vaishnavas are engaged in the service of the Lord is the best sacred place for performing any religious ceremony. At the present day, especially in big cities, people live in small apartments and are not able to establish a deity or a temple. Under the circumstances, therefore, the centers and temples being established by the expanding Krishna consciousness movement are the best sacred places for performing religious ceremonies. Although people in general are no longer interested in religious ceremonies of deity worship, the Krishna consciousness movement gives everyone the chance to advance in a spiritual life, becoming Krishna conscious. Text number 29. Jatra jatra harer archa sadesha sreyashan padam jatra ganga dayo nadya puraneshu chabishruta. Translation. Auspicious indeed are the places where there is a temple of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, in which He is duly worshipped, and also places where there flow the celebrated sacred rivers mentioned in the Puranas, the supplementary Vedic literatures. Anything spiritually done there is certainly very effective. Purport. There are many atheists who oppose the worship of the deity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the temple. In this verse, however, it is authoritatively stated that any place where the deity is worshipped is transcendental. It does not belong to the material world. It is also said that the forest is in the mode of goodness, and therefore those who want to cultivate the spiritual life are advised to go to the forest. Banan gatto jadarin ashrayate. But one should not go to the forest simply to live like a monkey. Monkeys and other ferocious animals also live in the forest, but a person who goes to the forest for a spiritual culture must accept the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as shelter. Banan gato jat darin asreyeta. One should not be satisfied simply to go to the forest. One must take shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this age, therefore, since it is impossible to go to the forest for a spiritual culture, one is recommended to live in the temple community as a devotee. Regularly worship the deity, follow the regulated principles, and thus make the place like Vaikuntha. The forest may be in goodness, the cities and villages in passion, the brothels, hotels, and restaurants in ignorance. But one who lives in the temple community, he lives in Vaikuntha. Therefore it is said, Sreya Sampadam, it is the best, most auspicious place. In many places throughout the world, we are constructing communities to give shelter to the devotees and worship the deity in the temple. The deity cannot be worshipped except by devotees. Temple worshippers who fail to give importance to the devotees are third class. They are Kanishta Adhikaris, in the lower stage of a spiritual life. As it is said in the Srimad Bhagavatam 11.2.47, Archaryam evaharaye pujanja shradyaye hate natat bhakteshu chaneshu sa bhakta prakrita smritaha. Quote, a person who is very faithfully engaged in the worship of the deity in the temple, but does not know how to behave towards devotees or people in general, is called a prakrita bhakta or kanishta adhikari. End of quote. Therefore, in the temple, there must be the deity of the Lord, and the Lord should be worshipped by the devotees. This combination of the devotees and the deity creates a first-class transcendental place. Aside from this, if a grihastha devotee worships the Shalagram Shila or the form of the deity at home, his home also becomes a very great place. It was therefore customary for members of the three higher classes, namely the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, to worship the Shalagram Shila or a small deity of Radha Krishna or Sita Ram in each and every home. This made everything auspicious, but now they have been giving up the deity worship. Men have become modernized and consequently indulging in all sorts of sinful activities, and therefore they are extremely unhappy. According to Vedic civilization, therefore, the holy places of pilgrimage are considered most sacred. And still there are hundreds and thousands of holy places like Jagannath Puri, Vrindavan, Hardwar, Rameshwar, Prayag, and Mathura. India is a place for worshipping or cultivating a spiritual life. The Krishna consciousness movement invites everyone from all over the world without discrimination to caste and creed to come to its centers and cultivate a spiritual life perfectly. Om Agyana Timirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militanyana Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirveshesha Shunyabadi Pashyati Adeshatarine. Vancha Kalpatarvyasha Kripasindu Vyevacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha. So, such an encouraging and wonderful instruction of the great fortune that we have to be part of the community of Shishikishore Kishore community of devotees. Shiranarada Muni explains, just confirm this importance and confirm, as and Prabhupada says, it's the best auspicious place to live. Sometimes, we talked before about it, we may take it for granted, but it's what a incredible, fortunate position to be. And something very important that is there, that is instructional to try to understand, is especially for us that are sort of growing in Krishna consciousness under the shelter of the spiritual master, is how important this activity of deity worship is for us. Sometimes it's very confusing because, or not necessarily very confusing, but is not clear when we don't have necessarily a very mature realization of Krishna consciousness, that we may hear that there is certain emphasis on certain things, especially when we hear that the emphasis on this age of Kali is Sankirtan, the absorption on the chanting of the holy names. So, and we see that greatly advanced devotees, they fully absorb themselves in hearing and chanting this Sankirtan process or Yagya. And for doing that, there's no rules and regulations. We hear that can be performed in any circumstance, in any place. Gorkishore Das Babaji used to do his bhajan, his chanting, in a latrine, in a place where you in a very dirty place. He used to do it in purpose, so he doesn't get bothered by people. It's such a nasty place to be, that people don't like to hang around those places. Well, that's where he used to chant his rounds. So there's no regulations of circumstances, of things that you have to follow. It is sufficient because everything is right there. Everything is all the potencies of the Lord are placed in His names. So for devotees who are very advanced, so they can fully absorb themselves in this process, and there's nothing else needed. And it's a recommended process for this age. So sometimes in an immature way, we may try to um, sort of imitate, or I won't put it as hard as imitate, because sometimes it's just a matter of not having a mature understanding that that unless we're fully purified, we cannot be totally and fully absorbed only like these great devotees in the process of hearing and chanting. We need something else. And that something else is provided by the Lord in the form of this deity worship. Prabhupada says something very nice in this regard. This is in the letter to one of his disciples. And that the combination of these two things, we spoke before, there's this Bhagavad Vidhi and there's this Pancharatrika Vidhi. These are two paths that for people who still, or devotees who still have to deal with unwanted things within the heart, they're compulsory, they're necessary. And the combinations of two is very nice. So Bhagavad Vidhi means hearing and chanting, preaching, the activities of glorifying the names of the Lord, glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead in any shape and form that is there, either publicly or how you say, individually like that. And Pancharatrika Vidhi means deity worship. So for any person, being a devotee or just being an innocent person, this Pancharatrika Vidhi is necessary. Now, the part that sometimes is not clear for us is, okay, but the recommended process for this age is Sankirtan Yagya, is hearing and chanting. So sometimes, we say, well, the other ones are lesser. We focus on hearing and chanting. We are engaged in the Yuga Dharma, and that should be sufficient. But no. Why? Because we have to become purified. And again, how do we follow the process of Sankirtan Yagya? The process of Sankirtan Yagya is instructed and guided by a devotee, by an advanced devotee of the Lord, a spiritual master. And so the process of devotional service under the guidance of the spiritual master in the beginning is basically focused on purifying our existence and allow us to engage directly in the service of the Lord. So these two things are combined and necessary. You can put one down and the other. You can't just concentrate on Pancharatrika Vidhi and have the desired result, or in Bhagavad Vidhi and have the desired result. The two have to be together. Prabhupada say, this is a quote from Srila Prabhupada, if you do not keep yourself fit to preach Bhagavad Vidhi, then your temples will be closed in due course of time. Without preaching, you'll not feel enthused to continue the temple worship. And without temple worship, you cannot keep yourself pure and clean. The two things must go on parallel. then there is success. So the process of deity worship is meant for purifying ourselves, for keep us ourselves pure and clean. Why? Because there's rules and regulations to worship the deities. There's several things that are there that are so important for us who have, who are conditioned by all kinds of things that are influenced by the mode of passion and ignorance. And, especially in these modern times, there is a Kali Yuga and this modern, society. Everything goes against, cleanliness. The four principles of religion: cleanliness, truthfulness, compassion, and austerity. These things are, the contrary is happening. So. So having that type of how you say when something is against you, or you have a say obstacles or disqualification. We already come with that disadvantage. Then it's necessary. It's necessary to actually have a process, a system in which we're given regulations, and with those regulations we can cultivate a life of cleanliness, a life of truthfulness, of austerities, and compassion. So these regulations are given in the Pancharatrika Vidhi. That's one thing. The other thing that is so important, and is you can understand how brilliant Krishna is and how kind he is, that we have a way of practically applying the things that we're learning in the scriptures and being able to develop a relationship, a loving relationship with the deities, the deity forms of the Lord. So when you serve, say, we're learning from the scriptures about our relationship with Krishna, but that's book knowledge. And in our position as students, it's all theory. But how that theory becomes a practical application, that's when deity worship comes into place. When we learn about, devotional service, that we have to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, well, how do you apply that without deity worship? Then you have situations in which society concocts way of serving God. So then, service to God is service to the poor, and that becomes that, their religion. So, there's this whole concept that Prabhupada often criticized, that is this Daridra Narayan, that Narayan has become a poor man, therefore worship of Narayan means you worship, the poor man, the pauper in the street. So concoctions, there's no practical application, it's just book knowledge. So deity worship then becomes the means by which you can actually practically apply what we're learning. And what is when you do something practical, when you apply what you're learning in a practical way, then it becomes a realized knowledge. Now it becomes something substantial. So when we serve, when we do devotional service to the deities, then naturally the result of that is that we start to establish a loving relationship with the deities. And that's a very tangible thing. how the devotees become attracted in a loving way towards the deities. And the natural result of that loving attraction, that loving relation, is that you want to do more service, you want to do something. You want to, fulfill the desires of the Lord. And what are the desires of the Lord? He wants everybody to come to Him. He wants, everyone in the world to actually being able to connect, to reconnect with Him. So preaching is there. We go to preach because we feel, that the connection with fulfilling the desire of the Lord. So it's a beautiful thing, and it's practical. So the two go so perfectly together. Say the other day, it's just so nice when you go and preach with the mood of a satisfying Guru and Krishna. So we know how important the meditation of assisting Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan mission. And we go out for Harinam or for book distribution or for Prashadam distribution. And when you're out, then it's something takes up. It's such an experience. The other day that we were in Harinam, it's an always fresh transcendental experience, just to be out into the public and chant the holy name and thinking, that this is to the pleasure of Shishi Gaur Nitai. So you go before, praying to Gaur Nitai, to Lord Nityananda, to allow, the devotees to have a wonderful time that is not so cold. And indeed, somehow or other, the suns come out, and it becomes nice, I was just thinking that our mind always going to try to find excuse. And the little excuse, oh, it's too cold, oh, it's too this, oh, it's too that, like that. And indeed, it may be like that. But if one just stick to it, there's always something transcendental experience that happens. There's something that you see the hand and the blessings and the support of Shishi Gaur Nitai. When one just goes through it to the commitment of, yes, we commit to go, we go regardless. And then something wonderful happened. So nice day for Harinam. People responded very nice. Some people actually responded extremely nice. That you see some, people just doing their regular things, just riding in a train, doing their business. They will have never ever think it was never into their heads to actually engage in the Sankirtan Yagya. They even know what the Sankirtan Yagya is. They were just doing their business. And there they are, the devotees come, and then, someone takes the car and start to chant alone. Some stranger start to chant alone with the kirtan of the devotees. Someone takes the Bhagavad Gita and start to read it, and then when he's leaving the train in great ecstasy, he just displays his Bhagavad Gita and start to dance this, with the devotees, in great appreciation, and shows the Bhagavad Gita and likes to take a picture with his Bhagavad Gita. So all this magic thing, all this wonderful thing happens. Why? Do we ever have the strength to actually do this without the support of the deities in our situation? Or we do it because we know Kishore Kishori becomes very happy and Gaur Nitai becomes very happy. And I don't know, most of us has that type of experience with the deities. I would say, as far as that's just a standard experience of the devotees. There's some reciprocation with the deities. So it is a very important thing. So it's a must. Therefore, that's what Prabhupada is giving us. He's giving us, a community around a community that is focused on the worship of the temple, or how to put it. A community develops around the temple, and the whole community focus is the worship of the deities in the temple, and that's the most. That's the best place to be. That's how actually everything should be. That's how the community of people should be. We still have examples of that. I can think of, you think Prabhupada puts there that there is so many great places of pilgrimage in India. If you visit Jagannath Puri, we have Karunanidhi Prabhu is from Jagannath Puri. He can attest to that. Everything is centered about that temple, the Jagannath Puri temple, Lord Jagannath's temple. And the worship of Lord Jagannath is the heart of the whole place, actually the whole region. And you have places like, say, Sri Ranganath. Have the opportunity to visit Sri Ranganath. And Sri Rangan, where Ranganath is worshipped. And it's a town that everything is just centered on the worship of Ranganath. And, every day, every morning, every night, the deities go in procession, and it's a big festival. Actually, I think it's something like only like 3 days in a year doesn't happen somehow, something like that. The rest, 360 something days, there's a festival every night. Procession, like, the whole town is just partying around. It's incredible. So everything is centered in the worship of the deities. And that is the ideal situation for an ideal society. So you have the service of the deities as the center of everyone's life. And that is what Prabhupada is providing now with temples in great cities, such as this. And that is why, the best arrangement, the best way we can plan our lives is just to be part of a community of devotees and serve a deity faithfully like that. It's just the best plan of your life. For those of you who are, in the future will have to get married and have a family, well, you start to plan. You don't want to be away from the community of devotees. You want to plan to be part of a community of devotees. Sometimes, as householders, we give preferences to, what would be the most financially secure situation, and therefore we compromise being in a community of devotees, and we go far from the community of devotees. And in general, devotees that landed in those situations, they're always hankering from it. They're missing. They're not totally happy, because we're meant to be in this situation. We're meant to be in a community of devotees serving the deities in the temple. That's the position. That's what is recommended here for grihastas, especially for grihastas. which is basically the 90-something% of the community of devotees, 90% or something like that. Well, but that's not put a number, but the majority are grihastas. So the arrangement for grihastas is that they should be engaged in the service of the deities. In fact, traditionally, the grihastas are the ones who do the deity worship and maintain the deity worship. The brahmacharis and the sannyasis are mostly engaged in preaching. That's the natural arrangement. Grihastas are the ones who are very much engaged in the worship of the deities. And that's a recommendation. The recommendation is that for grihastas it's compulsory. It's compulsory to actually be engaged in deity worship. So for grihasta brahmanas too, the worship of a personal deity is also there. You know, in previous times, grihasta brahmanas will be engaged in worshiping the Shalagram Shila, or a small deity, Prabhupada said, of Radha Krishna or Sitaram. For Gaudiya Vaishnavas of Gornitai. But Prabhupada explains that, you know, that that also in itself is very auspicious. It creates also a situation of your home being like a temple. So those arrangements are there. And when it comes to the question of, okay, well, if every grihasta has a deity in their home, but it also is the main deities in the temple, so the main deities in the temple becomes the presiding deities of the community. And one have to sort of manage that. But the presiding deities in this region is Shishikishore Kishori. So, you know, devotees of a community should be completely and given to the service of the Supreme Lord. And that is the most auspicious and fortunate position that we can ever aspire. I stop here if there's any comment or questions.
Here in purport, that Jiva Goswami mentioned that Sankirtan should be done before any ritualistic activity and after also.
Yeah.
That can you explain more something?
Yeah, well, the way I understand that is that there's still, there are still certain traditional sacrifices that we have to be engaged as, part of a, human society. Specifically, is mentioned there, birthdays, and traditionally, just people celebrate birthdays in all different cultures. It's just there, and it's also Vedically, explained in here. And there is things like funerals and remembering that the ceremonies for, how you say, remembering the dead and that type of thing, and marriage. These are all ceremonies that are there, and that are recommended in the Vedas. What Narada Muni just explained to Maharaj Yudhisthira was, all these sacrifices to be perfectly Vedic have to follow very strict rules and regulations in terms of times and circumstances. There's a particular place that is suitable, there's a particular time that is suitable, and if you don't do it in those prescribed times and circumstances and places, then it won't have the desired result. So, they're very strict. And there are many, many of these sacrifices that have to be done. They're also necessary for society. In fact, I was just thinking, this system of sacrifice is what Krishna gave to the world. We see that in Bhagavad Gita in chapter 3, text number 10, that, the Supreme Personality of Godhead sent forward generations of man and demigods and blessed them by those say, be happy by the performance of sacrifice. He gives the system of sacrifices. So by the performance of these sacrifices, you will get everything auspicious, So you get the desired results. So the system of sacrifices is given for human society. So these are the proper way of doing all these Vedic sacrifices. However, in Kali Yuga, there's the whole system there's no support system for these. So how do you do? Well, then Sankirtan Yagya is provided. But still, those things traditionally have to be done. So how do you do it now? Well, you start with Sankirtan and end with Sankirtan. So you can do the thing in between, however you do it. Some people may do this, some people, there may be some brahmanas that know a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But you want it to be appropriate according to the yagya that is recommended for this age. Sankirtan yagya will have to be the dominant thing, and that's usually that's how I understand it. Yeah, Jai Baladev.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for your class. My comments and question are related to this verse about bathing, the ritual of bathing in sacred rivers or holy rivers. And this reminded me when I looked at these series of verses, there's a nice purport that Prabhupada mentions in 10.10.4 of Bhagavatam. Basically, this pastime is where Nalakuvara and Manigriva are in a river. Apparently, it was the Ganges. So in that purport, Prabhupada explains that it is not that by bathing in the Ganges River one becomes purified. He says everything spiritual and material depends on one's mental condition. And from this purport, I basically understood that, one lesson I got that is basically better to bathe in humility than bathe in the Ganges, Jamuna, or any other holy river. And we learned this from Adi Leela 8.16 that even if one chants the Hare Krishna mantra for many births, one will not get the love of God if one commits offenses. That's what that verse says. So this, basically, my question is related to basically one pastime where this is very exemplified, where people, for example, the pastime of the illiterate Brahmana. When Lord Chaitanya saw the illiterate Brahmana trying his best, everyone couldn't appreciate it. You're illiterate, you're wasting your time following your guru. But then Lord Chaitanya said, simply because you're trying your best, you're an authority on the Bhagavad Gita. So if we have a hypothetical scenario, if a literate Brahmana, because this happens all the time, was wanted to participate in Bhagavatam class, most people, we couldn't appreciate it because he's illiterate. This is the same with Bhakti Siddhanta when he was speaking about his guru, that, at first I couldn't appreciate it because he's illiterate. I thought I was, very knowledgeable and had pure character, but my father told me to take shelter of him to crush my pride. And so how do we know that, like in this purport, Prabhupada mentions the verse from Bhagavatam where it says that one who engages in deity worship but does not know how to properly respect devotees or people in general is actually a materialistic devotee. So if the Vaishnava community in the scriptures didn't properly treat the illiterate Brahmana, how do we know we're not cultivating the same mentality with other devotees when we see too much that they don't have the proper education, they don't have the proper background, therefore they shouldn't speak so much because, even Lord Chaitanya said I only took sannyas because people only respected ashram. If I didn't take it, people wouldn't take me so seriously. So how do we know we're not cultivating this materialistic mentality and not appreciating the essence of every devotee, not based on their background, their education, etc.? So can you explain a little bit?
Well, the answer is in your question, I mean, it's an obvious thing. How do we know that we're not respecting? I mean, you saw an example that if we simply look on the externals, like the Sri Vaishnavas that didn't recognize this particular Brahmana because he was not able to read. If you look at the externals, then and you focus on the external and don't understand the essence, the internal cultivation of the devotee, then most likely you're going to misinterpret and don't understand. So we have to cultivate the mood of just seeing people's devotion and people's sincerity and appreciate it. To appreciate the devotees, to appreciate what brings us together. What brings us together is service to the deities and to the devotees. And you appreciate that. I mean, we just cultivate on that type of thing. I think that's something that we talk a lot. So, and I'm sure you hear it many times. So cultivate that mood, the mood of appreciation of the devotees. I mean, if we feel that we're not happy with whatever a devotee is doing and this and that, then maybe we just try to counteract that by appreciating, well, this devotee has these very nice things that they do, and you have to be appreciated. Anyway, something like that. Any other comment or questions? Krishna Archan?
In the purports to text text 29, Srila Prabhupada seems to be contrasting. On the one hand, one can be performing deity worship, and on the other hand, one could be just indulging in sinful activities. So from that, I'm taking that Srila Prabhupada seems to be implying that the absence of deity worship leaves space for sinful activities to happen. So would that be a correct implication to understand from that statement?
Yes, I think so. That's why it's just compulsory for anyone who enters, the householder life. It's compulsory to be engaged in deity worship. Otherwise, that guarantees purity and cleanliness. So without that, specifically, to be able to counteract, Prabhupada says, to counteract this engagement in sex life and to counteract the being absorbed in all kinds of mundane entertainment, that gets sort of controlled, curbed, or regulated or helped by deity worship. So, people on Sunday, instead of doing all kinds of things that people does, then when they come to the temple, is that just experience of deity worship just completely counteract that. So what to speak of having that situation, present in your life constantly like that. So yeah, it's compulsory. And if you're not able to be daily engaged in the service of the deity in the temple, you have to have deities in your home and engage daily in the service of the temple. In the service of the deity. That prayer that we, recite on Mongol artists, what is it? Sri Vigrahara Dana Nityananam. Singaratam Mandira Marjanada. Yuktasya Bhaktans Chanijunda Topi. Chanijunda Topi means that the spiritual master engage us in the daily worship of the deity by dressing them, by bathing in offering service and things like that. And that's on a daily basis. It's necessary. Yeah. Just one curious thing that just a part of that is that I thought it was quite something that Prabhupada puts, restaurants and hotels in the same space at brothels as the places of mood of ignorance. Restaurants and hotels. So watch out, don't go to those places. That's what we do when you travel around, okay, and have to book a hotel, place of ignorance. I guess it's a place just to sleep, something like that, I guess. Yes, Prabhu, Jitendra, Prabhu.
The temple atmosphere has a purifying effect. I remember Chandramauli Swami saying on Monday morning we should have extra intense kirtans to relieve the temple of the sinful atmosphere that has been brought in on Sunday, because God knows what kind of activities they're performing out there, and then they're coming to the deity and praying for forgiveness.
Yeah.
Something that came to mind. Monday morning.
Monday morning. Yes, Bhakti Prabhu.
We should be careful too, not to be heavy-handed on new devotees, and like the people that we gave that received the Maha Mantra and the card that when we went on Sankirtan. Like you say, our attitude should be one of appreciation, not one of, oh, your material life has ended, you're all in sinful life, you need to come into the... People aren't ready for that. They need to chant Maha Mantra. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu needs to fill their heart, and they need to recognize these things on their own. We can't go above them and come down on them and say, they'll stop chanting. Prabhu here had someone who said, well, I gave up chanting, I'm not chanting anymore. And even I have problems too. Sometimes I give up chanting because someone, I don't know where it's coming from, but someone is well, I'm on my own. I live up in the Upper Peninsula and I don't have devotee association. I'm working in a restaurant. So, I'm a pretty bad case too, So it's going to take a while for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, if that's his leading, and there's plenty of people out there. But if we turn people off by being heavy-handed and controlling Krishna to try to force them to come, they're not going to respond to that. They'll say, well, I'm going to give this up. It's just, so that would be my comment to say that, I don't know for myself, I'm in that situation, so I'm saying, I don't know how to alleviate my equation here. So, but just to be aware of that not to be heavy-handed. We can tell them this is sinful activity. We can warn them that there's reaction for that sinful act. But if we put our heart in there and start controlling Krishna to force them, then they'll turn them off and they'll go away and they won't come back.
Yeah, that's a very important thing when you're engaged in preaching. We have to be, Krishna conscious means we have to be conscious. We really have to be conscious of so many things. Conscious of other people, conscious of, Krishna, conscious of the environment. So it's have some common sense in terms of, dealing with others and cultivate again, like, we're talking with Jai Baladev Prabhu about appreciation, uh, appreciating devotees for their sincerity and yeah, everybody has their timing, and we have to be part of being conscious is that you be respectful. You be respectful of everybody's timing. You can try to force something because that's being disrespectful. So so it's a sign of maturity as devotee. The whole explanation of a neophyte devotee is that you don't know how to deal with the devotees. And it doesn't matter. You have all the different levels of devotees. It doesn't explain you don't know how to deal with the advanced devotees. No, it says you don't know how to deal with the devotees. So so that's a symptom of immaturity in our devotional service when we don't deal properly with each other and with other people. Actually, that's mentioned also in that verse. If you see the translation, you don't the neophyte doesn't know how to deal with the devotees and other people. So
Yeah.
we have it's a sign of maturity. So it's a very good observation that you do. Thanks.
Hare Krishna.
We stop here. Thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.